my responsibility was coding data at the Institute that had not been coded, and a lot had not been. And it involved data collected in 1960, um, which was the big follow-up funded by the Ford Foundation. None of those data had really been coded, uh, except that the Q sort had been used to develop measures of personality on people. Uh, but in terms of using the data to get social information on the life course of these people, no one really had any understanding of how many people were in the Korean War, the Second World War, um, what kind of work life they had. There was no information like that available at the Institute at that time. And so those are the things that I had to work on. And
So you were reading through these original
that's right.
schedules.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be worth describing what kind.
Yeah, they're amazing because they would be as long as 75 pages, and you would have, I remember especially the wartime experiences that were described, because they would be, the wartime experience would often come up at different points in the interview, and you put it all together, and it's more vivid than Saving Private Ryan by far. This was 1960, so it was 15 years after the war. But my guess is that for a lot of people, this was the first time they had been able to talk about some of these experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a section on marriage, work life, on kin relationships, on children. Um, there was a section on social and political beliefs, on religion. Problem I think that I had is that the interview was not set up to systematically um, acquire this information. It was really set up more to understand the personality of the person. So one of the big problems we had was trying to fill in the missing gaps. That it was not a structured interview, basically, and so it was hard to do it. You would get a very vivid picture of people in this, and that was really very helpful. And John Clausen, in his American Lives, draws upon those kinds of interviews to try to get an understanding of life history and how people have changed over time. John was very much a W.I. Thomas qualitative life history person. I mean, I didn't fully realize it, but John always was interested in the case. Show me the case, you know. And so I would be working in all of this coding activity, and John would have a single case on his desk, and he would be fascinated by it, would ask me to come in, and we would talk about this case, but how you would work from the case to 220 people, you know. Yeah, but John,
Do you feel he made that leap in American Lives or not?
I don't think he did. No, I really don't. I think those interviews or those life histories represented the heart of what he was really looking for, and the quantitative part. That's a book that really doesn't work very well, frankly. It's not a book that's well structured at the beginning. So, John, if you ask, you know, what is your theoretical structure at the beginning, it really doesn't have one to speak of. And I think that's part of the problem of the book. but it does remind me of Thomas in the sense that you have the quantitative part, or the sort of social demographic part, description of communities, families, and so on. Then you have at the end the life history of so-and-so. And John had half the book on that and half the book on the more quantitative part. And the two don't work well together, really. They're just kind of two different things. The life history part is quite much more successful in coming out with an understanding of how the Depression influenced the lives of these people than is the quantitative part. The quantitative part has nothing to do with the Great Depression. He calls it after the children of the Great Depression or something like that, and has nothing to do with history to speak of. History comes in, I think, only in the life history part of the study.